Okay, here's a video, hopefully quite a short video, that shows you how to use your Casio FX CG50 to calculate the mean point. So the scenario is this. A class of 13 students was asked to record their times spent preparing for a test. The table below gives their recorded preparation times and the scores they achieved for a test. So you can see in the table, the first student spent 75 minutes preparing, second student 35 minutes preparing, second student 30 minutes preparing, third student 35 minutes preparing, and the first student, their test score was 25, their second student, the test score was 31, and so on. So you can see that first student spent 75 minutes preparing for the test and they got a test score of 25. Second student spent 30 minutes preparing, a test score of 31, and so on. So out of these two variables, the two variables being minutes spent preparing and test score, remember variables, things that can change, which of the two variables is the independent variable? Now it's probably easier to think, well, which is the dependent variable, and then the other one being the independent. So as far as being the dependent variable, do you think minutes spent preparing is dependent upon which score that you get, or do you think the score that you get is dependent on the minutes spent preparing? So if you say it that way around, I would like to think that surely the minutes spent preparing for a test beforehand is what affects that test score more than a lot of things. So rather than the other way around, I don't see how the test score could affect how many minutes you prepared, because just think time-wise, one happens before the other. So the dependent variable, the thing that depends on the other, is test score. You would like to think that the more time, the more effort you put into your revision, the better you will do. So that means that the independent variable must be minutes spent preparing. So that would be your x, and that would be, once we plotted the scatter graph, which this question would lead to if I showed you all of it, that would be along the x-axis. So for part A, the independent variable is minutes spent preparing. Okay, part B, calculate the mean time x and the mean score y. So x, we need mean x and we need mean y. It tells us that time is x and score is y, but given that we've just worked out which is the independent variable, we should have known that anyway. Remember, the independent variable will always be the x, will always be along that axis. So we go to our calculator. If you didn't know how to get here, you just press menu. We need to be on statistics, lesson 2. And you're going to have to fill out these lists. I won't show you the whole thing, but I'll just start it and finish it. So I need list 1 to be all of the minutes spent preparing, so all of that X list. So it's going to start 75, 30, 35, 65, and so on. And then we'll do the same for list. I'll finish that in a minute. I won't bore you with all of it. List 2 is going to be all the Y values, so that would be 25 for the first one, 31, 30 and 38, and 38, and so on. Okay, in the last couple of values you're going to have 110, 18, and in the Y you're going to have 30 and 30, 33 and 34. Okay, so now that's all filled in, you need to go to calc. So F2 for calc. And this is two variable statistics. Now, I'd normally say, right, the only time you ever use two variable statistics, certainly in the IGCSE, is when you are talking about a scatter graph or correlation or something like that. So this actually, because I've chopped off most of the question, it doesn't actually mention that, but the rest of this question would lead to plot a scatter graph, do this, do that. This is two variable statistics because we're looking for the association between two different variables. We're seeing how strong is the relationship between the time spent preparing for a test and the score that you get. So 2 var, and it just comes straight there. So all I want right now is mean x and mean y. So the mean x there, it says 61.46. So to 3 significant figures, that's going to be 61.5. And I can give units, that's minutes, it's time spent preparing. Mean y is further down, so we'll just go down with the y, the down arrow. Mean y, it says 32.61, so we'll say that's 32.6. And we're not sure about the units, it's either marks or percentages. I'm going to assume that it's marks because there would be very low percentages. Okay, so that's telling us that the average student spent 61.5 minutes preparing, so just over an hour, and they got 32.6 marks.